That said, some formal information. So in the morning, there will always be coffee and breakfast and fruit. The coffee and fruit will be available for the entire day. So if you're hungry, go and grab some fruit. There will also be granola bars in the afternoon normally. So if there's no need to be hungry. There's no need to be thirsty. Go to the sponsor room for that stuff. If there's any other questions, obviously you can find the people in the red shirts, but I think by now you know already who is the crew. And then some other information for this afternoon, for late this evening. At 7 p.m., we're meeting in the city center in the Ray. Maybe you see it on the website. There's a social activity, as in there's an exposition about Salvador Dali, but it's a 360-degree light projection experience. And for those that have a ticket, it's free, but be on time. There will be groups of 25 people every 20 minutes that will go in. So the earlier you are, the more chance that you can actually get in. I think at 8:30, it's the last group. If you're at 8:30 at Ray, you can still get drinks, obviously. Also sponsored by Hinto, this venue. And then have a wonderful evening. For the rest, I'm going to ask Frederick to introduce our keynote speaker of today. And thank you for being here.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Frederik Wouters. I work for Dropsolid, and Dropsolid is very happy to be able to sponsor this event here, and we're doing it already for a long time. And I suppose we're going to do it also in the coming times. We're also going to we're also about to sponsor DrupalCon, so certainly go there as well. It's a great venue to go. We're also around in the open source space. Dropsolid actively contributes to Drupal modules in the digital experience platform space. And that's why I went to work for Dropsolid, actually, because how good is it to come to a company where they contribute? I started working with PHP around 1998, I think, and I'm very proud that the language has grown enormously since then, but I haven't achieved like a tiny bit of what Freek has achieved in his 25 years of PHP experience. So I'm not going to waste too much time and let you enjoy as much of it as possible. Freek is here to tell you about fantastic functions and where to find them.
Thank you. Thanks. So yeah, it's been a while, isn't it? Since we've been all together in a big room. I've given some presentations while COVID was busy, but that mainly involved talking in a room by myself at the screen, and I very much like seeing faces like yours here. So for those that don't know me, I'm Freek. I'm a partner and a developer at a Antwerp company called Spatie. Like probably the majority of you, I'm active on Twitter. My handle is Freek Beuse. I have a blog, freek.dev, where I mainly talk about Laravel and PHP development. And yes, I've said Laravel. I'm a little bit of the weird uncle in the room that doesn't do Drupal here, I think. But like on normal social occasions, probably after a few hours of talking to the uncle, you'll like him. Hopefully, we'll see. I also created an uptime tracker called Oh Dear together with my buddy Matthias. And this uptime tracker is a little bit special. We don't only visit your homepage, but we'll crawl your entire site and tell you when there is a broken link. And together with my colleagues at Spatie, I've created Flare, which is like competitors like Bugsnag, an exception tracker for PHP applications. Now, before heading into the talk, I want to say a few words about Spatie. I've said that we're a web agency, so we do client work, but we also create a lot of digital courses and products, which you can see on our website. But where people most commonly know us for is for our open source efforts. We currently have about 300 packages registered on Packagist. They are being downloaded for about 250 or they have been downloaded in total for 250 million times, and they are being downloaded for 50 million times a month, which is for us as a small team, we're only 10 people, that feels good that people like our work. You'll find a big list of those open source things at our company website. I think about half of them is Laravel specific, but there are also a couple of framework agnostic ones, which you might be useful in your next project. There's also a special license on our open source software. It isn't entirely free. Maybe I should have opened with that. If one of our packages makes it into your production environment, you are required by law to send us a postcard. And so every day we get postcards over the whole world, but I'm missing about 249 million ones or something. So if you use one of our things, do send us a postcard. It's great for our team. We also share it with the world. On our website, we have our virtual postcard wall. We take a picture of every postcard that we get, so you can enjoy them too. So with that out of the way, let's talk a little bit about PHP. Now, who here? Now, I can do this again at an online talk. I can't do this, but now I can ask the audience something. Who here likes working with PHP? Yeah, a lot of hands. And those that don't put up your hands, what are you doing here? I hope that you'll like both the uncle and PHP after this talk. So, PHP. Some say that PHP is dead. It is something that you hear every year or every few months, that somebody has written a blog post like PHP is dead. But I don't think they've been paying attention, because PHP is an amazing language. And the percentages reported always vary, but it powers a very big percentage of the web. So PHP certainly is not that. It's an excellent career choice and a fun language to work in. And we have these amazing things that are built with PHP, such as Drupal, our friends at WordPress, Laravel Symfony, and PHP is also a living language. There are amazing features being added every year. I've listed some of my favorite features here, which have been added recently. Native enums, short closures, null coalescence operator, typed properties, pretty cool. Property promotion, weak maps, union types, you name it. If you only taken a look at PHP while it was in the 5 or even 7 days, look again, because it's almost another language with all these features. And of course, we've also seen massive performance improvements. I think about 7 or 8 years ago, you always heard, yeah, PHP may be nice to programming, but very slow. I think that these days PHP isn't really slow anymore. I think performance, everybody likes more performance, but now it's on a level that it isn't really problematic anymore, and we shouldn't be ashamed of the performance of PHP when you compare it to other languages. But the success of PHP isn't only the language itself, it's also the ecosystem. And I think one of the biggest breakthroughs that we've had, and everybody hopefully knows it by this point, is Composer, which is a dependency manager that allows you to pull in third-party code. And the uncle isn't so weird anymore, because yeah, you have a lot in common with me as the weird uncle, because both Laravel and Drupal, they use the same dependencies. Both Drupal and Laravel depend on Symfony. And there are basically a massive amount of packages that you can make use of. On packages, you can see a few graphs on the usage of Composer. How many packages does it pull in? And it's a staggering number. I've taken this screenshot about a week ago, and yeah, it's 160 million packages installed per month, which is amazing. But for me, the absolute number isn't that important. It is it is that the curve is still growing. So there's still momentum in PHP. Now here's a second graph, and this says how many packages and versions there are over time. And it seems that we have about 330,000 different packages registered on packages, which is massive, of course. So I think that the PHP ecosystem is a very good one to be in. No matter if you're a Drupal or a Laravel developer, um, we're active in the same in the same healthy ecosystem. We have a flexible language, but I think we shouldn't rest on our laurels too hard or think, hey, our ecosystem is like the best. We can do everything on our own. That isn't the case. We're also being influenced by other ecosystems as well. And in this talk, I want to show you a few surprising ways of which we can use PHP. And I'm also going to show you a couple of interesting community projects. So things that aren't done with the language itself, but yeah, things that you can build with the language. We're going to talk about three things. A thing called invade, and don't read too much into the name. That package was named before the war started. I'm against invasions in general. We're also going to talk about concurrency. We're going to talk about debugging, and we're going to talk about something very interesting called LiveWire. So first up, invade. I don't know if you know this. Oh no, I'm going to start differently. As PHP developers, we like making things private or protected, right? It's like the basis of OO programming that not everybody should see your internal state. And you might think, yeah, every language has this, but this isn't the case. Python, for instance, it can't do it. They have like a agreement between all programmers. If we do like the underscore as part of the name, then it's considered private. And you might also think private, it's that keyword will protect me against other people using it, but that isn't the case. You can easily read private values and call private methods. And we've made it very easy with a package called invade. And let me show it to you that this actually works. So I've here a little command here. So we're inside of a Laravel application now, and we're inside of a command. And if you don't know Laravel, no problem. I just use this to execute some code very easily. So when I type A and then the name of the command, we're just going to invoke this code. We have here Ray new screen. This is like a debugging helper that I have. Basically, I'm going to send debugging information to that, and when I actually call invade, I'm going to clear out the screen. Next up, we have here a class, and let's go to this class. We have a private property. This is secret. We have a private method. This is the secret result. So let's first try do something with that private property. So we are going to try to read that private property. I'm going to send it to that little window, which is called Ray. And let's execute this code. And let's see what happens. Oh, is here my license isn't valid. Okay, and now it is, which is kind of strange because I'm like the creator of this application, and and now I don't have a license. Okay, this is like new for me. Okay, here we see cannot access private property. Okay, what can we do about that? Well, I've already installed that invade package. I can just do invade this class here, and let's run it again. And now, sure enough, we get this is a secret, which is the value that is here. Let's try to do the same with the method. So it is my private method. I'm going to copy it here since I don't get auto completion as that method is private. Let's first do it without this invade here. And oh, sorry, I can just comment this out. Probably it's warning here. Yeah, member has private visibility. Let's invade again. Call to private, blah blah blah, isn't supported. Doesn't interest me. I just want to call it. So let's invade this one. And here we have the secret result. So that's how easy it is to read private things. Now, how does this thing work? So this is the definition of the invade function, and it has like a nice helper clause here called the invader. And what we're basically doing is we're using PHP's built-in reflection. And whenever you call something on this object, we are going to take a look at the reflection of that object. We are going to make whatever property you call, we're going to make it accessible. So we're just throwing away the private or protected keyword, and then we're getting the value. And we're doing the same with in the call method, which is called on whenever you call a function on this, we're just going to use reflection, set the accessibility to true, and just call that method again. That's basically how you can use this. Now, should you use this? I don't know if you should use this, but it's nice that you can do it if you wanted to. It can be handy maybe in some kind of testing scenario or for some special tooling. So I think it's good that things like this exist in PHP. And in fact, tools like static analysis, where we are going to take a look at the code without actually executing it, things like this can be very, very handy. So if you need to do something like this, take a look at the invade function. Okay, let's move on to another subject, concurrency in PHP. So normally in PHP, you just run scripts from beginning to the end, right? That's like what we do. We want to render a page or some kind of response. We execute something, it goes to the end. Here's the response, and we're done. Now, in JavaScript, they do it a little bit differently. They do a lot of things asynchronously, very much things in a concurrent way where things are happening at the same time. So let's take a look at the options we have in PHP. And there are already very good and mature options to do this. There's a library called AmpPHP that allows you to create multiple processes. It's a little bit verbose to do it, but these things will happen on the same time. The big daddy in the room is, I think, React PHP, which allows you to define a loop, then add things that should happen on certain moments, then start a loop, and then the things that you've added on the loop will possibly happen at the same time. Again, a little bit verbose, but React PHP is an immensely powerful framework or package to enable this. Now, you might think, how does it work under the hood? And what is the absolute easiest way to do this? Because as you've seen in the previous example, it can be a little bit verbose. So let's take a look at how we could do that. So I have another command here. So I'm going to remove my changes. I have like an alias for that, for like, no, I don't need these changes in my GitHub repo. We have here again something to clear the screen, so that goes away in a bit, or I can just do it manually here. And then here we have a variable called take the blue pill, and we've set it to true. And if it's true, then we're going to say to Ray, I've taken the blue pill, and otherwise I'm going to say, hey, I've taken the red pill. So let's try to execute this. And of course, we have here, I have taken the blue pill. Now, my question is, why do I have to choose between both pills? Can't I just take both of those pills? I want the blue and the red one. Um, and yeah, you might think that it's really impossible to do so. Like, to which value do I need to set this in order to have both this and this? Well, there is a special function in PHP that allows you to do that. And it's a family of functions, really. It's the process control functions. These are things that can split your current process in multiple processes, and you're essentially working in different worlds simultaneously. And how you can do this is with the function process control fork. And this is a function that is available in most distributions of PHP. Okay, let's see what happens if I execute this. So we are going to fork it, and I have taken the blue pill and I have taken the red pill, which is kind of amazing, right? that you can just do it. How does this work under the hood? So process control, what it will give you back is the process number that it spawned. And for the child process, that process number will be 0. And for the parent process, that number will be a little bit higher. So in the child, this will be executed because it's a non-truthy value. And in the parent process, this will be executed. So you're seeing output of multiple processes here. See? Uh, Concurrency in PHP, easy. Okay, let's expand a little bit on that idea. I don't need these changes. Nah. And let's go to fork number 2 here. So again, we are going to fork the process. We are going to get that ID here back. And what I want to do in this little example is that I want to let the parent wait on the child. So in the previous example, we have just 2 processes that just finished on the same time. But probably in concurrency, you want to have some child processes that do some actual work, and then let the parent wait on that until all the children are complete. So that's what we're going to do here. So we are in the child process if the process ID is 0. So what we're going to do in the child process is we're going to start working, we're going to sleep, and then we're going to report that the child is finished. And everything that is coming from the child, it will be in green. Then the child will exit out. But here we are in the parent, because the child process was, you were not in the child process, so we skip in the parent process to here. And then every 2 seconds, we are going to sleep again until the child is finished. And while it isn't finished, we're going to do this. And what is the check to see if it's finished? Well, there's another process control function for that. Wait on a process ID. And this is the most important flag, no hang, which says if you're trying to get a, if you're calling this on a process that's still busy, don't wait for it to finish. Just immediately go back with the result. Okay, let's see if this is working. It's still not too much code, right? Okay, let's execute fork 2 here. So the child starts working for 10 seconds, and in the parent, I'm sleeping. And every 2 seconds, I'm going to check if it is finished. And then after the 10 seconds, then the parent will finish. So we've made the parent here wait until the child here is finished. Okay, let's work a little bit on that, because now we've just waited, but now we want to pass results from the child to the parent, right? So how do we communicate between processes? Well, we do that with the standard Unix way, namely with sockets. And the socket functions in this demo, they're a part of the socket extension of PHP, but that extension is also available on most distributions. So we first are going to create a socket pair. And you can see that inside of sockets here, it's a kind of old school function where you pass in a thing here and it will manipulate that. And so you don't get a result back, but this variable will be filled. And in that variable, we will have a socket to the parent and a socket to the child. what we are eventually going to do is we are going to let our child process write something through the socket to the parent, and we are going to let our parent process here, we are going to read something from the socket there. Meanwhile, we are also going to use another socket helper function. If we detect that we are in the child process, we don't have a need for a socket writing to the child because we are the child. And in the parent, we are going to do the same in the socket. When the parent starts, we are going to close the socket to the parent as we don't need it. But these lines are the most important. Socket write, socket to parent, and then socket read. And that's basically it. And here we have that finished function. So we are going to write result from child, and we're going to read it here at the end. Okay, let's try it. For 3. Child starts working. Again, we are going to wait for 10 seconds here. We're still sleeping in the parent. Child is still working on that process. Child is finished, and we see here result from the child, which comes from this line here. So we've read the socket. So the communication is working. So you can see that just using a couple of functions, we can work with concurrency in PHP. Okay, now this is a lot to maybe remember and to type. So I've created the package to make this as simple as possible. And it's a package called fork. And this basically does the same underneath the hood. Now, the only thing that you need to do as a developer is to create a fork, call new on it, and give a couple of closures that should run. So I have a little sleep function here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to send to Ray a thing like, I'm starting to sleep. We're going to sleep then for that amount of seconds, and then we're going to wake up. And what you are going to see is that all these sleep functions, they will be called simultaneously. So we're not going to wait a second before this one starts. We're not going to wait 2 seconds before this starts. No, the entire duration of executing all of this will be 5 seconds and not everything summed together. All right, let's try and see if that works. So fork 4. So they all start sleeping, and after each second, one of those starts waking up as we've slept for that amount of time. So this is basically the most easy way to make code run concurrently in PHP. And if you take a look at the source code, then you'll see all those processor control functions that you saw in the previous demos. Now that I see this, last week I saw a nice blog post by Kevin Henley, who shared a nice way of sorting things, like the worst sorting algorithm that actually works, but you shouldn't implement. And basically that works with, he has like an array of integers, and he's going to sort them by echoing it out on the screen. But before echoing it out, it puts a sleep statement. So if it's 1, it's going to sleep for 1 second, then print it out. And if it's 100, then it's going to wait 1 second. But after a while, it will have been sorted. This is a simple way of sorting, but don't use it. Also, a surprising way of using PHP if you do that. Okay, that's I think it for concurrency. Let's conclude with this. So it is possible. There are a couple of nice frameworks that allow you to do this, and Fork is a nice lightweight solution if you want to do some simple things. Okay, let's go to the next subject, and that is debugging in PHP. And there are a couple of ways to do this. Now, the big daddy in this room is Xdebug, of course. It's a step debugger, which means that you can set breakpoints and you can go one line further and see everything that is in memory. And I think that the author of Xdebug once told that, if you're not using Xdebug, you're an amateur. I don't agree with that at all. That's putting it a little bit harshly. but I think that in general, Xdebug is a nice tool, but it could be a little bit hard to install, or at least that's my experience and the experience of some people around me. It's basically, yeah, a little bit of game of chance. Am I going to be able to install it in 2 minutes or in 2 hours? Um, and on the other hand, for debugging in PHP, we have dump debugging. And with dump debugging, I mean things like a var dump, like a print r, that kind of thing, just echoing things out, which I'm sure that many of you in this room have done. I do this all the time. And the nice thing about this is that you can see the state of your application from multiple points in time as well. So with Xdebug, you're basically freezing your application and that's it. But with dump debugging, with just putting like print r statements or var dumps of whatever function that you want, you can put that in multiple places of your application, run your application, and then you can see them all at once. And that is a very, very nice way, I think. Now, there are also some bad things about dump debugging. The output can break your code. If you dump something on the screen and you want to see what the result was in the page, maybe all that debugging information will clog up your your HTML page. And it can also be confusing if you, maybe for instance, if you're debugging a CLI command and you have all those var dump statements and you execute it a couple of times, where did the output of my current invocation start and where is the output of my previous invocation? So it can be a little bit confusing. And with dump debugging, there are also some nasty things. You might not track down all of your debugging information. You might push it into version control, and you can deploy it. And now you're you're var dumping on production, and hopefully you haven't put in any environment values in there. So it's also a little bit risky. So you basically have two options. It's dump, die, info, var dump, all those functions, Xdebug. But I thought, wouldn't it be nice if there was something in between there? And you've also already saw me using it. And that's something that we call Ray. And it's, dump debugging evolved. That's how I like to call it. So these are the nice parts of dump debugging. It's a beautiful desktop application. You can use Ray to debug everything. And you can find more info on that on myray.app. But I'm also going to demo it in a Drupal application. So, I think last week, I don't need to update now. That would be a little bit tricky. Last week, I've installed, I think, sorry, weird uncle here, my first Drupal application in 10 years. So let's see how it looks like in the browser. So that's how it looks like. And now let's go to the source code of this. And let's maybe go to the index.php file. And these things, they shouldn't be here. These are all just array things. Yeah, okay. Let me just hunt it down a little bit again so I can give this demo well. Okay, we're good. Okay, so here we are in Drupal, and let's do these side by side. And let's, for instance, that you want to debug something in the kernel here. So I'm going to just add some debugging statements in this file and a few related files, but you should imagine that you're debugging your own code, right? So what happens if you just do a dump of the kernel here, and let's refresh this page, and you can see that I don't see my HTML page anymore, and because I dumped so early on, I've even managed to break PHP. Now, how you should do this with Ray is just calling the Ray function, which is available by installing a small package in the application, which I've already done. And if I refresh this page, then you can see that we see the entire object here in a separate window, and I can still see the output here. And of course, I can just send whatever I want to it. I can also send like um, an array to it. Let's try to do that. Let's refresh here. Here you can see that little array, and you can see that in the Drupal kernel I've already set something here. And how you can jump to array call is just by clicking under here. And here you can see that I've used another function called trace, just ray trace. And what it will print is like how we got here. So this is in the boot environment function. Then it got called via kernel handle, and it got called in the main file here. So this makes it very easy to do so. Now, how this works behind the scenes is that that ray function just makes an HTTP call. And this here is a little React application with a built-in web server. And that web server that is listening for the calls that Ray application makes. So that's how that works under the hood. There's also another neat trick that Ray can do, and that is letting your code sleep. So let's refresh. Oh, and I got that the sleep does not exist. I think this part of the demo might be broken. Let me try it again here. Nah, I'm going to have to skip it over this one. So yeah, I've got some development things on my machine, not the latest versions, not the stable versions, I mean. So in the stable version, you can actually let your code hang here. And this can be very handy, for instance, if your code has side effects. So imagine, for instance, that you have like a loop, and in that loop you maybe write something to the database. Then you can let your loop sleep on the end of it, and then inspect like the database what the state is after one loop. And how that works is very simple. Wait, I know what the problem is. It's not sleep, it's called pause. Yeah, yeah. Ray creator here. Can't remember his own functions. Okay, let's do it. Yeah, that's it. So you can see now that this request is hanging. So if I continue here, then we're continuing. So, and then we get the rest here. If I do this again, we're hanging here. And if I stop, then we get an exception like, hey, we've stopped running the code. So how we do that is by running sleep in the code, and it just checks on the Ray in the Ray application like, hey, are you still sleeping? Should I still sleep? And if the Ray application says, yeah, you should still sleep, then the PHP side is going to sleep and ask again in a second. That's how easy it is to make like some kind of pausing the code. It's a naive implementation, but it just works. Yeah, that about Ray. Let me check the time. Okay, and let's move on. So that is Ray. So it helps you to debug faster. It can pause your code. I've not mentioned this a little bit in the interest of time, but you can install Ray globally, so you don't need to add that package to each and every function. There's like a special thing in the PHP ini file called the prepend directive, and you should look it up in the or wait, I'll just let you show it. I have a computer here, so I can just get the ini file here, and I should have this one. And I'm a real programmer. I use Vim. Sometimes I only know 2 commands, but that's that's enough to search. So prepend error prepend string. That isn't it. Can I go further? Prepend. Ah, here it is, the auto prepend file. So this is like a script that you can say in your PHP file, and that will make something um, run before each and every script in on your machine. Um, let me still show this. Maybe I'm going a little bit over time, but Ray here. So this is a little helper application that I sometimes use to execute some code. It's just, I'm not including anything here. And with a little bit of luck, let me clear it here. I can send some things to Ray, and Ray isn't a PHP function, right? But where is that Ray function coming from? It's coming from that auto prepend file here. If you want to take a look at the code of how we do this, that is happening in global Ray. I'll tweet that out um, after this talk. Okay, back to here. So you can install it globally, and you find more information on it on myray.app. Okay, last subject, Livewire, which is something very special, I think. It's something Laravel specific, but you can port this idea to any ecosystem, and I hope that by sharing this with you, that some of you might pick this up and make this available in the Drupal world as well, because it's, yeah, I don't want to say revolutionary, but yeah, it kind of is maybe. So what this allows you to do is to build like a dynamic front end without coding any JavaScript at all. So how you make things interactive on a front end. And imagine that you need some data from your database, is probably by adding an endpoint to your application API endpoint, and then maybe you have some JavaScript call that endpoint, get the data, and put that in the DOM with some JavaScript. Livewire can just replace all of that. So what it does, it enables you to use server rendered partials, and you're going to know what that means in a bit. Livewire was created by a very smart fellow named Caleb Porzio, but he was inspired by the work of, I think, Chris McCord did with LiveView, which is available in the Phoenix framework, which is written in Elixir. So this is an idea that is really taken from another language and backported to PHP. And yeah, I've already said the first part of here. So traditionally, if you want to make some things interactive, you are going to get a JSON response and render that with JavaScript. But what you're going to do with Livewire is that you are going to render the HTML that you want on the page on the server, and then replace the HTML that's already on the page with the new HTML. Now, in theory, it sounds a little bit boring, but I think that by seeing a demo, that you'll get the hang of this. So we're going to leave the Drupal world behind, and the uncle is going to back in this weird kind of thing. And I have, here's some Livewire things. And I think the easiest way, I don't need Ray now, is maybe by just letting you see this, the browser. So this is the most simple Livewire demo that I can give you. We have a value here. And when I do the +1 here, then the value is going to go up. And if I do the -1 here, the value is going to go down. Now, there's nothing really special about it, but you should notice that we don't reload the page here at all. And if we take a look at what is happening here behind the scenes, so I'm going to go to the network, let's clear this out, and let's maybe plus here. We are going to make a request to the server, And what are we going to get back from the server? Is we are going to get back a little piece of HTML, namely all of this, and we are going to replace that little piece of HTML that we get. We're going to use that here to replace what is here. And that is how we can make this alive. Now let's take a look at what we need to do server side for this. So this is the route that I have defined, and this is this view. This is like the HTML that I needed to write to render this entire page. So it's a little simple thing here. We have some layout, so the HTML tag and some stuff is there. Here is that title, and here is our LiveWire component. And our LiveWire component has like two parts to it. There's another subview of it where I'm going to define some HTML, and a PHP class where I can define some behavior. Let's maybe take a look at the HTML side of things first. Let me make some room here. So this HTML is this part. So you can see here the value of the counter is, and then this count. So this is our internal state. And here we have those two buttons. And with those two buttons, I have here some special directive on it, wire click. And this means, like, if I click this, I want to execute that, that function that is defined on the component. Okay. Let's split horizontally, that might be better. Let's maybe take a look at the PHP counterpart of this. Let's close this up. So this is what you need to define on the PHP side. So we have a component here, which has a little bit of state, namely that count. If I do add, then I'm going to just add 1 to the count. And because I change the internal state, LiveWire will re-render that component. And we have a little render function which just spits this back. But because we have another value here, this or we have added something to the value here, this one will change, and we have something else that will be rendered. And this is the only thing that you need to do as a developer to get that behavior. Now, this is a very simple example of this. You can see that we just render some HTML and replace that, but you can use this for a lot of interesting behaviors. I've made another component here, which is a search component. And what we're basically are going to do here is we are going to type a search here. Maybe these are all quotes. So here I have some quotes by Marcus Aurelius. And if I put unnecessary here, then I get this quote back. Maybe I can do something else, and you can see it here. And you can see it's a very interactive component. And these quotes are all coming from the database. Now let's take a look at what I needed to do to get all of this interactivity. And a spoiler, I didn't need to write any JavaScript for this at all. So let's go to the web view here again. This is the search view. So this is the entirety of this. So we have that title here. We have that component. This is the view part of that component here. So here we have a div with an input field, and here we have a UL where I just render results. On that input field, I have another wire directive, namely wire model searching for. And this ties that the searching for thing that is on the search component. Let me bring out the search component itself. So here we have a little bit of state for searching for. Whenever I type something here in that field, LiveWire will make a new request to the server where the typed value is being passed to search for here. That search for here, it changes, so we are going to re-render our component. To get the quotes from the database, we have our get quotes here, and here we are going to use that search for to get the quotes from the database. This is an active record model to just get some results back. The results will be put in quotes here, and we will render that list with quotes here. And that is basically everything that I need to do to make this work. So again, if I put in Marcus here, then Marcus will be passed into search for. We will re-render stuff. We will have a new list of quotes, and that will come over the wire, and Livewire will replace what I've had here with everything that I've rendered here. And you can see that it just works. I also use this technique on my own blog. So here, if I search for Laravel, I get all Laravel answers. And this is a live site, but yeah, sorry, weird uncle, I have nothing for Drupal at the moment. Maybe that will change in the future. But this technique just works. And you might think, yeah, this is some kind of weirdo idea. I'm not going to do that because nobody's going to do that ever. This is a bad idea. Well, there's probably a site that you are working with every day that uses this very technique, because PHP isn't the first one to have this. They also have this in the Ruby world. And one of the biggest Ruby sites that you probably work with is GitHub. And I don't know if let's use that global rate thing here. I don't know if you ever noticed that if you're on GitHub, if you're browsing here, you're never going to get like full page refreshes of this. If you take a look what is happening here, I go to network. Let's clear this all out. And if I go to something else here, you can see that we didn't get like a full page refresh. There isn't any CSS or JavaScript being reloaded, but we are effective. We are going to get from the server back some HTML, and there's also already some JavaScript loaded that will replace what's on the page with what we got here. So this isn't a very new idea at all, but something like Livewire makes this incredibly easy to do. Yeah, you can see this is just a class of 30 lines of code. We have a view file here with also almost 30 lines of code, and I got like immediately search behavior in my browser. I think that is kind of amazing. These are just simple examples, but in the Laravel ecosystem, Livewire is becoming really popular. So it's an idea that has proven itself. So Livewire, what do you get? You get server rendered partials. It works by transmitting HTML over the wire. I think the idea is production ready. We can talk a little bit about performance, but performance is mostly good with some caveats, but that would be like a talk on its own to talk about it. It's a Laravel specific package, but the idea can be ported. It's just rendering HTML and creating a way of replacing that in your browser. And if you want to see more about how you can use Livewire, go to its website. So yeah, we've covered a lot of ground with this talk, and I didn't get to sip my water. I'm becoming a little bit thirsty. So let's start closing down. I think that you've seen a couple of interesting ways to use PHP, and you've seen that PHP is not an island on its own, but it's influenced by other ecosystems. And not only PHP in itself, but Laravel itself is influenced by other systems. The Drupal world is also influenced by other systems. And if you want to help the community progress, and you don't have a good idea where to look, just look at other ecosystems. What are they doing? What do they like? And do we have that in our ecosystem? And if not, then you just found your new open source project. So just go and take the best parts of all the other ecosystems and bring it to the PHP community. And if we do that enough, then we make sure that the PHP ecosystem will remain as powerful, as flexible, and as healthy as it is today. So that's everything that I got for you. I hope that you liked it and enjoy the rest of your conference. Thank you. I don't know if there's still time for questions. 3 minutes. Is there somebody that has one question? Yeah. We have a box here. Yeah. Nice catch. Do I have a nephew?
No.
Probably I do.
No, my question was related to the parallelization, the concurrent. I'm not familiar with those functions. Does PHP spawn another process? Like if you look at the process output? Oh,
yeah,
okay.
it's definitely, it's just another process.
And the sockets are files and everything?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
It's just basic Unix functionality that we're using under the hood there. Yeah. And that's the most easy way of making things concurrent. The other frameworks like React PHP, they use other techniques as well. They use things like interruptible functions and generators. But what you've shown here is just basic Unix functionality.
Okay,
yeah.
Thank you.
The last.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does it really work? Yes, it does. I was wondering if things like React PHP or the other one, MPHP, if it's really going to take off, because we've been talking about this for some years, and well, PHP is basically still the same. I use React PHP for some precise applications, but I don't see it coming in more current applications. We still use standard PHP.
I think that something like React PHP, it's really mature. Probably you've already seen with your project that it just works, but it also has some caveats. It's a little bit more verbose as against like just running a script, and I think it's just a question of how easy can we make this to use for people. And I think in the Laravel ecosystem, there's like another package which is called Octane. And that's something that really hides that concurrency for you away. I think that in order to make things like concurrency really work in the entire community, it needs to be as simple as possible. And I don't think that we're there yet with something like React PHP. We must make it more easy still. That being said, if you really need that concurrent feature, then you can already use it now. But if your question is why isn't this like general adopted, I think because it's a little bit too verbose to just be used for any project. Okay, that's it. Enjoy the rest of the conference. Thanks.
Is the other speaker already in the room?
Was een nieuwe talk, dus dat was ook een beetje spannend voor mij. Dat is de eerste keer dat ik deze deed. Ja, zeker.
Zou je dat kunnen gebruiken in Twig, uw rij?
Ja, dat kun je in Twig ook gebruiken. Ja.
Super. Het is omdat ik ben van de frontend helemaal diep.
Ja, alles